Yes.
The great thing about this show is that I asked Paul right before I hit that video intro whether or not he's ready. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I was curious what you're going to say there because what my answer has no bearing on this thing starting. I don't even know why you ask.
Welcome back,
Actually,
friends.
I do know why.
Welcome back. Paul, I have excellent news.
Yes.
I don't even know if I talked about this in the show or not or whatever. But my vision test, I passed. Got my...
Nice.
Well, in Ohio now, they're doing enhanced driver's license, which apparently everyone's going to need starting in like October of 2020 if you want to use your driver's license to get on a plane.
Yes. So that's a new thing there.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. So it used to be that you could go to the little place and that, you do your eyeball test. They ask you a bunch of questions. You give them your documents and say, hey, I'm still here or whatever. And then they just give you, they take your picture and they print the license right there. And now you have to answer a whole bunch of questions, give them more documentation than usual, pay the same fee though, which is nice. And then they mail it to you.
Okay. So does this mean, in other words, this is like a national standard now for this kind of thing?
Yes. And if I believe correctly, I think the only state that's not or one of the few states that's not partaking in it is actually Washington. Because, yep.
Interesting.
But they've got a couple of years, I guess, to figure it out. I don't know. It's just called an enhanced driver's license, and now that's all Ohio will do. You can technically still get the peasant license if you want, but I don't know why you would do that because then you can't get on and use it to get on a plane.
Yep.
And it costs there's no difference in price. All you have to do is bring your social security card and 2 proofs of residency, which is like an electric bill and a mortgage document, and that's it. So
Sure.
But I passed. The only thing I was worried about was the vision test, and I did fine. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Well, nothing else happened today, folks. We'll catch you right back here next time.
Good show.
Yeah. Yeah. This one came across the wire not long ago, but this is just beautiful in timing and everything else. But I believe it comes from the Wall Street Journal. It says Samsung plans to launch a foldable screen phone with a 7-inch display that can be folded in half like a wallet early next year. I've never heard of such a device.
Brad, what is that thing you've got behind you on the screen?
Way to keep it on topic. So jumping along here, because we can't talk about Andromeda enough, this is actually a dock from Kensington. So Kensington, like the lock and accessory maker for PCs. And so what it does is it turns your Surface Pro into a studio thing. And then on the back side of this down here, there's a bunch of ports and whatnot.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think this is brilliant. I think this is a neat little thing. It's not just a standard dock. I don't know. I doubt this is magnesium. It kind of looked plasticky in their video. But it's $299, which is a little steep, but a Surface dock isn't all that cheap either.
Yep.
And
that's a great idea. In fact, one of the confusing things to me is why there hasn't been a lot of third-party Surface Connect peripherals. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, this is one of those things you look at and you're like, that should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah. That's neat.
Which this sent me down the path of trying to figure out if I could actually use a Surface Studio as a monitor, and the answer is no.
Yeah, it doesn't do that.
Which is bad.
Yeah, the thing I think I mentioned is the PC I'm using now. You can do that, and I may eventually do it because I'm having all kinds of problems. But I love the display.
Yep, Paul. And before we get into it being expensive for Google, I think this is going to be a really expensive fall for me. This is shaping up to not be good. Let me explain why here.
Yep.
So my Apple Watch is 3 years old now. Whatever. I actually just tried to press one of the buttons and it's dying. This thing is on its way out, but I don't want to get rid of it because I like the health part of it. So I'm going to buy a new one of those. New ones are supposed to have bigger screens. Whatever. So that's probably $300. My 2-year contract for my iPhone is up, so I need a new phone. My wife needs a new phone. Granted, we could do it $50 a month, but typically we just pay for these phones up front, and that way we're not shackled to a carrier if whatever reason, even though we've never switched carriers in 15, 20 years, we at least have that option. And then, according to Microsoft here, they're not explicitly saying this. I'm probably going to be buying an Elite controller. That's
$150 right there.
Yep.
Yeah, I would buy that thing sight unseen right now if I could.
Oh, mine too, considering mine's held together with Gorilla Glue and prayers.
Mine is has long ago seeded one of its.
Yep.
The grippy. See how it's grippy over here.
Yeah.
And not over here. That's just come right off.
Yep, and potentially a new headset as well.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we won't go to Paris. Maybe we'll just blow it up.
Just spend money on stuff. Well, yeah, I think you can do both.
Yeah.
And you can bring your stuff to Paris.
Yeah, but between all that, I mean, that's granted, it's not going to be all in the same month. I hope not. Jesus, that would be rough.
It's always I always have this conversation with my wife in the fall, because for me it's like there's a new Pixel phone coming out. I have to get that. I got rid of my iPhone, so I probably need to get an iPhone at some point just to have one for testing purposes.
You got rid of your X? I did not know that.
Yeah, so I got to think about what that might be. Like I kind of hope they put out an X style SE2 or something, which depending on whatever rumor you're reading today is or is not happening. Just so I can get something cheap just to kind of have it.
Yep.
I also got this is just semi-related. I've had my Pixel 2 XL replaced because the original one was a lemon. This one exhibits some of the same problems, and it has a new problem, which is that USB-C plugs will not stay plugged in. So when I walk around and listen to headphones, which you need an adapter for, because I don't have a headphone jack, the music stops playing because it moves just enough that it disconnects the connection,
Fantastic.
And I'm really excited about it. Yes, I've cleaned it out, with an air can. I've gone in with a magnifying glass and a really small kind of a pointy razor thing to kind of just chip away at anything that might or might not be in there. There's nothing there. I plug the same plugs into different devices, securely plugs right into the OnePlus 6, no problem. Goes over here and it's like loose and wobbly. And I can't frickin' stand it because I love the camera on this thing so much. It's amazing what you will put up with.
Well, I mean, the good news is it's not like you have any long flights coming up where you're going to need to listen to music. So that's...
Oh, yeah. So by the way, funny you mentioned that. I will be writing about this, not this exact topic, but this will be part of a bigger thing I write. Because of that trip, I've actually put I had like an AT&T pay-as-you-go SIM in there in the OnePlus 6. I put a Google Fi, Project Fi data SIM in there in the OnePlus 6. I put all my music on there, my audiobooks, my podcasts. I put some videos on there even.
Yep.
And I'm going to temporarily use it as a media device on the plane rides. And then in Europe, I'm going to carry it around because it's another way to take photos and, be online. And they have a cap on data. So it's really a cap on data cost, I should say. It's unlimited really. But yeah, I'm going to be using this thing a lot in Europe because of the stupid Pixel problem I'm having.
Oh, the places you will go to avoid having to buy another iPhone, I think is the Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah, I'll probably get there. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see what the problem is. Like the camera on this thing is so excellent.
Yeah.
It's just, if Apple would figure out the low light thing, if I could take photos like that with an iPhone, yeah, I probably would go back.
Yep. No, I fully agree. The Pixel 2 takes excellent photos. There is absolutely no question about it. And I understand why you do that. But, I would, in my personal life, I'd be willing to knock down the camera quality just a little bit, maybe go with a Galaxy S9 for the sanity of everything else working. But you know what? Here we are. And,
no, you're right. Actually, and I got rid of my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus too, like a jerk.
Good job.
The one, it's funny, DxOMark, those guys that rate cameras, just rated the camera in the OnePlus 6, and they gave it a much higher rating than I would have given it. I haven't read it in depth yet. I want to go back and do that. OnePlus supposedly any time now is going to release a major update to the camera app that supposedly improves the camera quality. So I actually do have a hope that while I'm out in the world, visiting Sweden or whatever, I can take pictures with both of these things, and who knows, maybe it'll put it over the top. Because the other thing that just happened is T-Mobile dramatically improved their international plan. So you can have like a day pass like AT&T or Verizon offers, but without any limits, but at half the price. So like if you think about like a 3-week trip, the max I could spend on data if I just used all the data would be like $60. $5 times 21 days or whatever is roughly what, $105 I guess. So it's a little more expensive. Actually, it's a lot more expensive. It's a 1/3 more expensive. But depending on the length of the trip, like it might kind of be a wash. So of course you have to pay for the the phone line on top of that. And Project Fi is $30 a month, and I'm sure T-Mobile is 40 or 50, something like that. I don't know. Everything could be changing. If I get screwed over by Google enough, eventually some changes may occur.
Speaking of the L-Googs, for those who haven't heard this morning, the EU has decided that $5 billion is the fine that they're going to pay for some of the shenanigans that they pulled with their Android operating system.
Yep.
And Google had an interesting blog post in response saying, hey, maybe because it's free, we'll just start charging money for Android. And which they could. I mean, what is someone going to do? So
it's true. This would be good timing to do that too, because Microsoft's already left the market. There's no other viable competitor. I think the more likely outcome is that Google will make some concessions, and some of the things that they were accused of doing are pretty onerous. And at this point, given Android's dominance and the successful transition from a desktop to mobile for search, I don't think they're in a bad place anymore. So, and actually, everyone's going to compare this to what happened to Microsoft, as they should. There's some interesting differences. The biggest one is that Android is open, right? And Windows and the Mac back in the day were both proprietary systems, so product bundling could have a more terrifying impact on those products. Plus, I mean, not to be a jerk about it, but the stuff that Microsoft was accused of bundling, Internet Explorer, Windows Media Player, Windows Messenger, especially in the beginning, were terrible. The difference between that and what Google offers, search, maps, Gmail, calendar, all that stuff. I mean, those apps are awesome. People want that stuff. And I think it's really interesting that if you look at a typical iPhone user, they're using those apps too. So people are actually choosing the Google app. So if Google no longer has to require phone makers to make those the default apps, I think people are going to pick them anyway, except maybe on Samsung, which is kind of the the interesting side note to this story.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I do wonder how Samsung feels about this, because on one side they have their own operating system, Tizen or whatever it's called, but on the other side, Samsung effectively won, right? That battle. They beat out HTC, they beat out LG. I mean, if you're going to buy a high-end Android phone, you're going to be crazy not to look at a Samsung Galaxy S, whatever the version is that year. And so on the hardware side, they've won. On the software side, they're kind of restricted to whatever Google does. So I don't know if they would ever publicly comment, because they're making billions of dollars from this. But here they are kind of stuck in the middle, probably teetering on the edge about what Google's going to do, because if they go too far one direction, it could upset the balance that they have of just owning the hardware space right now.
Yeah, Samsung's in an interesting place. I mean, they've been kind of relentless about trying to replace Google functionality in their phones.
Yep.
If Android is opened up further, this would allow them to do this to a bigger degree. I've always said that, or often have said that, the day that you see a Samsung Maps app appear on one of these devices, you can be sure that we are one step away from them dropping Android for good, basically. And they might go down a path with Tizen and maybe some sort of Android app compatibility thing like Microsoft was working on for Windows Phone, where they can just move past it. I mean, it's like, you have to think that they're trying to control their own destiny, right? That's what Bixby is about. Why would you do this? It's what a lot of the things they do is about. So they're the one company that could be successful doing that.
Yeah. I guarantee the one thing that is holding them back from doing that, and maybe this will come from the ruling, is the apps, right? We all know that. We know that apps are everything. And if it comes out that if you fork a version of Android, Google cannot block the App Store from being installed and running, that will be the end of, probably overnight, of Samsung's reliance on Google building out the OS. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah. And for smaller manufacturers that aren't getting the sweetheart deal from Google that Samsung is getting, the ability to experiment with non-Google sanctioned things is kind of interesting, and it would allow them to ship mainstream phones that, in whatever configuration with all the Android stuff, and then maybe they could do one where they had, alternatives, and they kind of see how that goes. I mean, right now they're kind of prevented from doing that, but I think the reality is what users want is Android. They don't want something that's sort of like Android or based on Android.
Yeah.
And, Android means those Google apps, right? It means Google Maps. It means the Google Play Store and all the apps that thing provides. I mean, it's It's kind of past the point of there being a viable other ecosystem from an app's perspective.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see, but this is not over anywhere close to being over. I mean, this is the ruling. This thing will be drug on for years and years and years, and you will hear about at least more headlines, most likely resulting in the fine being lowered to some extent, but there will definitely be some sort of impact on Google whenever they finally come to the end ruling, which will, be a couple of years away.
Yep. And my cat has arrived just in time to knock over the lamp.
We're just going to start referring to your cat as the EU. It just shows up late to the game and then just wrecks things.
Yeah, just moves slowly and is annoying. And then ultimately nothing comes of it. This is apropos of nothing, but somebody has apparently gone back in my Twitter timeline and has retweeted something that I tweeted when we were in Las Vegas a year ago, January. Mm-hmm. It says, "If you hate yourself, I can recommend the Excalibur Hotel."
Somebody was apparently staying there.
What a shithole. Okay. Anyhow.
So. Fun. You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, I mean, we're kind of furiously racing to get the house ready for this thing. Friday night, as we keep saying, I'm flying, but I've had to dramatically reduce the amount of stuff I'm going to bring, which is going to be interesting on a 3-week trip. Anyway, I'm just kind of working on that stuff, I guess. How about you?
I'm just actively plotting how not to let you return to the United States so that I can just not have to do this anymore.
You know what I'm going to try on the way home is there's a mobile app version of Customs.
Really?
And I forget the name of it. Yeah, and it only works with like 21 different airports. So when I first heard about this a year or so ago, Boston was not on the list, so I never got to try it. But we're flying through JFK, which is terrible for so many reasons. But JFK does have support for this, so you don't really set it up till you're coming home. It's like I tried to do it today. You can put pictures in and stuff, but I'm going to be interested to see. I've never done Customs in JFK. I'm sure it's it's like a post-apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic hellhole in there. But I would imagine that the mobile app version would be a little quicker. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense because really all you do is you walk up to that kiosk, answer a bunch of questions, it snaps your photo, and then you just walk up and then stand in another line to actually get the guy to stamp your passport. So
I enjoy lines that are there so I can stand in another line. Those are the good lines. It's the line before the line.
Fun times, folks. Well, that wraps it up for today. We will be here tomorrow because tomorrow's Thursday, which means it's a work day, which means we're doing a podcast. We'll catch you right back here. Have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday.